All right. Afternoon. Awesome. Thank you. So, like Ms. Megan said, my name is John Clark, with the Johnson Highway Police, out of our Little Rock headquarters. They're on the baseline. You guys know where that's at, familiar with it. Been with the agency for 14.5 years now. I'm currently one of 2 motor carrier safety inspectors for the division. And my primary job tasks is to do compliance investigations for companies throughout Arkansas. I also come out and do these presentations like this. So thank you guys for the invitation. Thank you for lunch. We'll get started. I won't keep you too much longer. Sound good? So it's kind of like school time. If you guys have any question, please raise your hand. If you don't ask the question, I have no idea what concerns or complaints you guys have. This is a free open forum, so they look on your mind, okay? Nobody can get rid of the uniform, okay? So you guys are from all across, correct? So what we'll do is I'll put together a quick PowerPoint. We'll go through it together. Like the different types of vehicles you guys may or may not have, some of the different processes and procedures, and then at the end of it, any questions you guys have or questions throughout, I'll do my best to answer either today, and if I can't find the answer today, I'll get you an answer and get it back to you, okay? So, commercial motor vehicles. Everybody see the screens okay? So, Arkansas recently changed the law between interstate, which you go out of state to do business, or intra, means that you guys strictly stay in the state of Arkansas. So, does anybody in the room go out of state at all? Couple of y'all. So the majority of y'all stay in state. So we amended and changed our laws now, primarily for intra. So you can always Google these laws. They're out there on the World Wide Web. So Arkansas Code annotated 2313-206, little A, which is the Arkansas Motor Carrier Act, was amended to read a commercial motor vehicle operating in intra, which is in-state only, that has a gross vehicle weight rating or gross combination weight rating of 26,000 pounds or less. Yep. Or a gross vehicle weight rating or gross combination weight of 26,000 pounds or less. The rules and regulations do not apply. In-state business only. So essentially what that says in a nutshell is if your vehicle's GVWR rating or your vehicle's gross combined weight rating, either the vehicle by itself or vehicle with a trailer and a load, is 26,000 pounds or less, then all of the rules and regulations that we enforce, you guys get out. Learned something already. So he's done for the day. He's like, I'm out. I ain't done. So that's why this. So once you exceed 26,000, that's the magic number. In state, where you guys haul placarded amounts of hazardous materials, or if you guys ever want to just haul a bunch of people around, operate a passenger vehicle, that's when the rules and regulations will apply. If you guys go out of state, then the magic number for the GVWR is 10,000 more. So just keep that in mind. So let's talk about registration real quick, because everybody always asks, well, what type of tag does my vehicle need, right? Everybody has that question. No, so we'll talk about the difference between private or pleasure vehicle tags versus commercial tags. So mainly when we're dealing with registration and licensing for y'all's type vehicles, the majority of you guys are either going to be running a 3/4 ton truck or a 1-ton truck or a 1-ton van. Am I correct? Some of you guys may be running around a 1/2 ton as a company vehicle, but as far as your work vehicles go, they're either going to be your 3/4 ton or your 1 ton. So that's a whole lot of mumbo jumbo to read, but I'll put it in a nutshell. You guys can read it on your own if you want to. So essentially, your 3/4 ton trucks, you have the option of either putting the white commercial tag, like the majority of you guys have on your trucks on it, or you can license your 3/4 ton with a yellow tag, which is a commercial tag. But if it's a 1 ton, So all one-ton trucks and vans that are used for commercial or business purposes shall be registered with the appropriate class according to gross laid weight. So in other words, what that means is whenever you register your vehicle with a yellow tag, you have to register for the weight of the vehicle, the weight of the trailer, if you're gonna pull a trailer behind it, and the weight of the load that you're gonna carry either on the truck, if it's a single straight truck with no trailer, weight of the load you're gonna have on that trailer. So prime example, a tractor trailer, maximum allowed registered weight on the tractor trailer is 80,000 pounds. So that 80,000 pounds accounts for the truck itself, the trailer that's hooked up to it, plus whatever loads you put on that trailer. The Arkansas licensing and registration break it down into 8 classes. So that's why it's only included class 2 or 3. I didn't want to put a whole bunch of slides in here with a whole bunch of law and technical terms. But generally, your class 2s, they go from 6,001 to 20,000 pounds. I mean, class 3s, which is a little bit larger, so that'll be your C tag. They start at 20,001, go up to 40, and then it's broken up into weight increments. And I've got a copy of the registration fees and different classes that you guys are more than welcome to have a copy of before you leave here. An easy way to ask yourself, is my vehicle a 1 ton or less? Manufacturers have actually made it somewhat simple. So if it's an F350 or a 3500 series, the 3 in the front normally denotes 1 ton. So if you got an F250 or a 2500 series, what do you guys think or guess the weight class of that may be? So these are the different license classes. So the letter, if those the letter on the front of the yellow plate, you guys see them out there running around all the time. B, C, D, E, H, J, and K. And then those are the pounds that plate to be written. And the price is different, starting at 6,001 all the way to 20,000. So 6,001 pound tag is going to be the cheapest tag. And your most expensive tag is going to be the 80,000 pound K tag. That'll run you at $1,358. This is a whole lot of other mumbo jumbo. You guys, if you've ever looked at the law or read the law, it's a whole lot. This has to do with trailers, because we get asked all the time, well, what type of license plate does my trailer need? So if it's pulled by a pickup truck, a half ton or a 3/4 ton, those are primarily the tags you see running around, the AA tags, the AB tags, like your 4-wheeler trailer or your boat trailer or your camper trailer. If you're using it for business purposes and it's pulled by a 1 ton, then that's when you either got to put an ST tag or a PT tag. Those are the tags that are required in commercial operations. So that's what that says, and it just breaks down price. So you're going to pay, if you get an ST tag or a PT tag, you're going to pay a one-time $65 fee for that license plate. So it's a one-time registration. And the PT tags are permanent for the duration of your ownership. Any questions so far on truck registration or trailer registration?
I've got a question. We got
Repeat the questions.
So you stated your question was, is you've got how big was the box truck again? So a 32-foot box truck, and you went to the revenue office and they gave you a regular white, what's called a personal vehicle or a pleasure vehicle tag. So yes, you'll need to go have that corrected. The revenue departments, and I don't work for them, we don't control them. Sometimes, depending on which revenue agent or office you go to, they'll ask you clarifying questions like, hey, is this business purposes, personal purposes? And some of them maybe do or not know exactly what you're going to use the vehicle for. We run into a lot of that with our medical cards. What type of driver are you? Do you ever leave the state? What type of vehicle do you drive? And they get that confused or misunderstood. So yes, sir. So what you'll do is just go back down there, figure out what weight you want to register that truck for, and then ask for that tag, that class of tag, and then ask for that weight amount, and then pay the difference of the fee.
Is the weight amount?
So it's based on gross weight. So whatever that truck weighs plus whatever you intend to haul or whatever state law allows you to haul by the axle configuration is what that registration should be based on. All right, so let's say, so we just went over, if you have to run a commercial tag, you have to register it for whatever weight you plan on operating at. So let's say you get pulled over by one of us and we weigh your vehicle, because we all carry portable scales in our vehicles. We weigh you and you're overweight on your license. What that means is you've registered. There it is right there, words, pictures are better than words, right? So you've gone to the revenue office for whatever reason, you've registered that truck. Revenue office issued you a registration, and however it went down for 62,000 pounds. You guys go leave here today and go back to your respective businesses, pull out your registrations, look at them and see what weight you registered. So anyway, we stop you, go to weigh you, ask for your registration, see your registration, registered for 62,000 pounds. We actually weighed you out 78,820 pounds. So you're overweight on license, 16,820 pounds. But when you register your vehicle, we give you a 1,000-pound tire. So in this case, if you're registered for 62, we're not going to take enforcement action until you get 63 or 4. Everybody with me so far? So in this case, what you would do is you're subject to a citation at officer's discretion. So that's totally up to the officer. But the officer is going to issue you what's called a revenue summons. What you'll do is you'll take that revenue summons. You've got 10 business days, excluding holidays, from the date that revenue summons was written to take it to the revenue office, and you've got to update registration. So, registered for 62, we wrote you for this. If you're going to continue to haul this much, you got to go to the revenue office and up your registration. If this was a one-time oopsie, dang, I got caught, didn't realize the DOT was working today. This is what you're going to continue to register and haul, then that's fine. But if you make a boo here and continue to operate here, you got to go get it fixed. Everybody with me? Yeah. Everybody makes mistakes, but we're going to continue to make a mistake. Go spend the more money, because you'll see in the long run, the price difference between going from here to here versus paying one of our tickets every single time you get one will pay for itself, I promise. Any questions on vehicle registration?
If I could hit back to you, you might cover this later on. You mentioned health cards with the question.
Yeah, it's in here.
Okay, I'll wait on that.
Yeah, I promise we'll get there. All right, so wonderful world of commercial driver's license. So it's covered in section 2723 book that we use. Does anybody in here have a CDL? Some of y'all, everybody else in here has a regular driver's license? Okay. So this is our CDL flow chart. Did you take one? Yes, sir. So whenever you stop your vehicle driving down the road, this is a flow chart that we use to determine whether or not you are required a commercial driver's license. So this gets passed around. So we'll go over this together. And also on CDLs, If you're not aware, for anybody that does not have one, that wishes to get one, or if you guys hire a new driver or a new employee in the future that does not have one, now they're required by federal rules and regulations to take, entry-level driver training, DLDT. That can all be found online as far as providers go, who teaches it. I'll tell you up front, it's not regulated on how long, the course material has to be. I've seen some schools as short as 4 weeks. I've heard some classes in schools as long as 6 months. The big thing though is I don't think the price is regulated. So when you guys call and get a price and it's $5,500,
It's cheap.
is that cheap?
Yeah, look at that.
So, but you gotta do the entry-level driver training now. You gotta do it if you get a brand new CDL. And then you've gotta do it if you wanna upgrade from a class B to a class A. Or if you wanna add, I think, school bus endorsement and hazmat endorsement. So just keep that in mind. It's no more going to the revenue office, paying $50 for the packet, going and taking the skills test at state police, waiting 14 days, taking the driver's test, giving you a CDL. A little bit more, legwork now. So does everybody have a copy of the CDL flow chart in front of you? So that is y'all's to keep. So we pull you guys over, we need to determine whether or not you need a CDL. So we're gonna start at the top. Is it a combination vehicle? That's a truck with a trailer. We just answered the questions. So let's start out with yes. Yes, it is. Does the trailer have a GVWR or a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,001 pounds or more? Find that on the vent plate of the trailer. The answer yes. Is the gross combination weight rating, so that's truck, trailer, and load, 26,001 pounds or more? The answer is yes. Class A. Does anybody in here transport hazardous materials that require placards?
We do.
No.
Okay.
But y'all normally haul big enough vehicles and you guys already have a class A, right? So the class Cs are mainly for people transporters and placarded amounts of hazardous materials. The best example I can use for the class C, I stopped a PT Cruiser, everybody knows what one of those are, those small cars. Stopped one of those one day, had radioactive placards on. And what they were doing is they hauled around the radioactive medical equipment and prescription medication. And sure enough, they retrofitted this PT Cruiser, and right behind the driver was that lead steel plate partition like in a police car, and all the radioactive stuff was in the back. Because it required placards, that little bitty PT Cruiser driver needed a Class C CDL with a hazardous materials endorsement. Yep. But this is the chart that we're going to use. It's not difficult to understand or read. It's black and white, word for word, self-explanatory. So you guys can go back to your businesses and look at all your trucks and your trailers or any future purchases you make and determine what type license, if all, that you need. If you go through here and answer all the no's and get down here, no CDL required, that's your regular old Class D driver's license. You gotta have.
So pretty much, we're two axle trailer, it's gonna hit you. Or at least that's the lot. Correct.
Well, you only need a Class C if you transport placarded amounts of hazmat. So if you don't haul hazmat and you don't haul or transport 16 or more people, including the driver, then you just got your regular old Class D. See there?
Yeah, I would have been back.
So the way we determine what the GVWR of the vehicle is everybody familiar, or has anybody ever looked at your own truck and seen it on the vehicle itself? You guys know where to find it. So the majority of them are located on some form of sticker right around where the VIN plate or the VIN number is. Normally, if you open up the driver door, it's right there on that beat pillar. It's called the beat pillar. Some will be handwritten like this, some will be printed from the manufacturer, some will be stamped. You just have to look for it and, make sure that it's legible. So in this case, everybody see that? What's the GVWR of this vehicle? 10,000 pounds, right? So if this was an in-state, intrastate only truck, is it even regulated by us anymore? Can everybody see that one? So what's the GWR? 11,500, right? 11,500. So before we amended the law, everything was 10,001 or heavier. Then we amended the law and put in there the intrastate clause. But before that, everything was 10,001 pounds or more. So 10,000 pounds or less, we couldn't touch it. Anybody notice anything wrong with this picture? Somebody got creative with a label maker, right? What is the size of pound under it, right? So there are honest people in the world. There are.
I would at least cover the other one up.
Why better?
Yeah. Right, GVWR on this one. So is it regulated in state? Regulated out of state? Believe this is a new regular GVWR? All right, so now we get to have a little interactive fun, right? Everybody has that flow chart in front of them, correct? So we got this truck, right? How many in here has a truck like this or similar to it? Some of you guys, most of you guys? All right. So let's work on our flow chart. Is it a combination vehicle? So what's the next one? Is it a GVWR or GCWR 26,001 or more? What's the GVWR on the truck? 17.5, right? So is do we need a CDL? Everybody agree with him? Okay, there. Doesn't matter. Same thing with going and getting your RV. You can go buy an RV today. So here's the deal. So air brakes is a restriction. So if you test in an air brake vehicle, that's obviously different than air brakes. If you go and you test in a vehicle without air brakes, you get that air brake restriction. So that's where air brakes come into play. So everybody's good with that one? Same truck, right? So now, let's say it's got a load in here behind the part that we can't see, and we put scales on it and weigh it. So we weigh it at 28.5. Does it need a CDL now? What class?
See,
C or B? B, right? Because it's not a combination vehicle, but it's over 26,000 or more, right? Y'all probably have one of these, and believe that was probably the majority of them, right? Somebody want to guess? All right, so somebody guess again. So, flow chart, combination vehicle? This combination vehicle is truck and trailer, right? Is the trailer over 10,000 or more? It's 14, right? Is the truck and the trailer that GCW gross combination over 26,000 or what? 127, right? I know you guys don't agree with this picture. So, truck and trailer up there for business purposes. But I get it. Grandpa can go down and buy an RV and hook up a boat or a four-wheeler trailer behind it. And weigh twice as much as that. This one? Or you use it for both. So if you
Just say I'm solving something for me.
that you're good on your class D. So the only time a CDL applies or comes into play is for commercial operation. Because a lot of guys will do that. They'll go and they'll haul those campers on the weekend using their duals. Well, if they're hooked up to a camper making money, they're a commercial operation, CDLs apply. They come back on the weekend and go to Walmart, hook up the boat and go to the lake, and that's the regular old class D drivers. All right, you guys got one of these? Somebody does? Competition vehicle? Is it trailer over 10,001? Is it together over 26,001? So we can already assume what type class license. You guys have seen this one rig before, right? All right, so the truck is 14,000, right? Well, what does it say here about the trailer? So the trailer's VIN plate is missing. This is where it can come back and work against your favor. So the VIN plate on either one is missing, truck or trailer, we're going to weigh the scales. If it weighs over what would normally keep you out of a CDL, then we go with what our scales weigh. Because let's just say, so the truck was 14. Let's say the trailer was 10 even. Technically no CDL required, right? But there's no VIN plate, so we weigh in, and now truck, trailer, tobacco puts you at 30, what is that, 34, 680? So now you gotta have that class up. So maintain your equipment is what I'm getting at. Make sure that we can read those VIN plates and those VIN stickers. If one gets faded, damaged, or destroyed, you can only call the manufacturer and give them the VIN number. And normally they'll either reprint you a VIN plate, or they may or may not send you a blank one, but you can fill it out yourself and stick it or put it back on the trailer.
So let me ask you a question on that right there. Okay. If that's a farmer loading a tractor on his trailer and he's moving it from one farm to another to do something, how's he, what's the regulation?
He's good to go, except on.
That's what I was talking about. What if I had it back on my buddy when he bought it, I took it to his house.
Since your buddy paying him,
So,
let's
he borrowed it.
it's all in what you say. And I'm not telling you guys a lot of police stories. So theoretically, you can go, because you've got deep pockets, just money burning a hole in your pocket. You can go over here to Peterbilt, to Galloway, buy you a brand new $115,000 Peterbilt tractor trailer. Run down the street to utility on the other side of the interstate, buy you a brand new $110,000 flatbed. Go down here to Sportsman's Marine and buy you one four-wheeler, load it up on that flatbed and haul it around and wave at everybody. You don't need a commercial license at all, because it's your truck, your trailer, your four-wheeler. You ain't getting paid to do nothing with it. Not for them. And it requires 65 feet long, weighs 60-something thousand pounds, and got air brakes on every axle. You get away with it with a regular driver's license. Well, then you go put a paper on that flatbed and put it in. See the difference? So sometimes, tag on it. You just have to, the easiest way to figure that out, is that four-wheeler ain't gonna weigh that much, so run it to a cat scale or a pilot truck stop, fill it up with fuel, because fuel's heavy, get the weight of it empty, and register it for the. We stop you, explain to us what you're doing. Because what we should, part of our job, hey, what are you doing today? I'm going to deer camp. I mean, we're already honest. Yeah. I'm pretty good at what I do. I can normally key in on deception and lies, but I like to hunt. I can deduce, okay, well, you're headed to the deer camp. Yeah. Now, if you're telling me you're going to Little Rock, Arkansas to deer camp, we'll not have a problem. But if you're going to Fordyce or Hampton or somewhere down there? Yes,
Rig right there, is on the other trail. It's got a combination of a rating. With your experience, you know, it's probably got a combination there. So you're better off.
We throw something up kind of off the wall in there,
Oh, okay.
just for knowing. Just for instance, what we've got, our company has a 1-ton truck.
Okay.
Believe it has a big plate on it. Occasionally for some of our people to move their personal camper from job to job. You know, when the jobs are lasting extended periods of time. Does the driver of that truck need the Class A CDL? To move their
Area.
personal camper?
Would you repeat that? Or the-
so you guys have some B tag trucks, and from time to time, your employees use the company truck to move their personal camper from job site to job site.
Yes.
That's a good question, though.
The truck and the camper.
Well, that's going to average. That's, neither one of us can remember what the weight rating is on our 1-ton. But you know, some of these RVs now, they're like mobile homes.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going with that, because some of them, I don't know what they weigh, honestly.
Does the company pay you to move, or they just let you use the vehicle?
It could work both ways.
So that would be the determining factor, just how it's perceived, whether that's a commercial business move, or whether that's a personal move. Depends on where you're moving it to. I mean, if you stay in state and you're not going very far, probably won't have the issue with it, but you know, if you're packing it up and going to Texas or Oklahoma for a job, you may have some issues. So that'd be a case by case situation.
Our boss is pretty good about keeping us in state. I mean, we might well go right to the state. He's pretty good about
Touch it and come back, huh? All right, so real quick, you guys want to do a couple more with the flow charts, so you're comfortable with it, you guys are all on top of your game. So combination, right? Trailer over 10,001. Gross combined with weight rating, so both of them together over 26,001. Are they just TDL? Anybody confused on the flow chart?
it.
What's the magic number?
One.
All right, how about this one? Class CDL. Or is one required? That one. So despite what we've been told, when you go to the revenue office or talk to each other on the street or the highway, the only time you're completely exempt from the medical card is if you're a county or government employee. You can haul bees. Get bees, and you can haul horses. So if y'all ever get hurt in construction, there are exciting adventures. Medical cards. So medical cards are enforced under federal regulations. Section 391.11 that lays out the requirements. You guys essentially just need to know that, hey, if I need a medical card, I've got to go to my doctor. Your doctor's required to know what tests he has to give, he or she has to give you, and what guidelines you have to stay within. So if you got diabetes, you may or may not get one. If you got a high blood pressure, you may or may not get one. Vision requirements. Here lately, a lot of doctors are sending drivers for sleep test studies. That's a big one. And then essentially made you, if you are missing any limbs, so a hand, foot, eye, anything that may impair you to safely operate a vehicle, you may or may not classify for that. And they're growing, the tests and the requirements are growing, day by day and year by year. They're gonna be good anywhere from 3 months to 2 years. So you cannot get a medical card longer than 24 months or 2 years. If you require a medical card, you've got to go to the revenue office as soon as you get that medical card, or you can actually go online now. Nothing found out, but you got to update it before or shortly after it expires because it's tied off to your driver's license return whenever we run your license. If the Department of Motor Vehicles is keeping up with things, which they have been here lately, I know COVID slowed a lot of stuff down. Generally, the way their system works is 60 days after that expiration date of your medical card, driver patrol is going to go in and downgrade your CDL. That means they're going to take it away. It's not disqualified, it's not suspended, you just don't have one. What happens then is we stop you or you get stopped. It's driving without a CDL, is the statute and the law violation. And you can't drive a commercial motor vehicle until you go to the revenue office and update that medical. Thankfully, for medical card downgrades, there's not a $100 reinstatement fee associated with it like there is on a suspension or disqualification. So just right now, so medical cards, max is 24 months. CDLs these days are 5 years. So how many times during that CDL time period you have where you're gonna have to update your medical card? At least twice, probably 3, right? Yeah.
If you get pulled over and you have, what's the record on, you haven't earned that, you still don't have a CDL license that, like, if you haven't took it to the record office, you haven't earned all. If you pull up, you're still gonna be in violation.
If our ACIC, if our computer system we run your information through says it's been downgraded. So then you may not get a citation, that's officer discretion again.
Right.
But if our computer system says eligible, which means downgraded, you're shut down. So medical card is, okay, medical card is really, really simple. So if you go out of state, you need one when the GVWR your vehicle exceeds 10,001. If you stay in state, because remember, in state, we don't regulate you until what? So if you stay in state, you don't get a medical card until your vehicle is.
In state, so that,
Technically not anymore. Yes, sir.
Very first line, you should.
I guess 2021, 2022, I have to look that up. It was passed in the last legislature. That's right. Third, that's. That's correct. So they still, yeah, they'll, so if you don't have a CDL, so if you require a medical card, but drive a vehicle between 10,001 and 26,000, then yes, you're still required to carry the medical card on your person and show a mask. That's the only downfall. They haven't figured out a way to tie that in yet.
When you say required, you talking about our company or
Required what?
health card?
No, so your company doesn't dictate the health card. What type of carrier you are, what size vehicle you drive determines the health.
We got a 5 yards up to that they say we have to have a health card to drive, but we don't hold 26,000.
They've been going off that 10,001.
Yeah, they may not be aware that the law was amended. That's a whole lot, I know. Everybody's asked or been heard, or the new big thing that's coming out is the drug and alcohol clearinghouse. Anybody in here familiar with it? Yeah. Anybody in here love or hate it? So here's the drug and alcohol clearinghouse in a nutshell. only applies to. All right. So, that's it in a nutshell. If you do not require a CDL as a driver, as a company or a boss, you do not employ any CDL drivers, then you're not subject to the drug and alcohol clearinghouse. And I've got a website at the end of this presentation for the drug and alcohol clearinghouse. You guys can go to that website anytime in the future. It's got hundreds of frequently asked questions. Those are the two that I picked out in the nutshell. What is it?
You must be a driver. We gotta do this deal.
Your company has to register as an employee or as an employer. You have to go in and register as an employee to give them consent to run queries. And, if it's just you, they're probably going to join, what's called a consortium, that big long fancy word there. And that consortium is going to call your company whenever it's time for you to go do a random drug test. That's how it works. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, the market,
No. Probably not, but right now, they can't be under the, you can't have a medical marijuana card and drive a commercial motor vehicle.
so
It's prohibited by
it's,
federal regs.
right, so if somebody with the car, you know, the employer can't ask, right?
No, you're good.
So if they had a medical card and then they went in for like the other medical card, or CDL, then would it be like, no, sir, you're.
Will you?
Well, every day, I'll be for the staff, the drug and alcohol clearinghouse keep up with individuals that may or may not possess medical marijuana. Currently, under federal guidelines, you can't be under the influence of possess marijuana while you operate a commercial motor vehicle. So the drug and alcohol clearinghouse, if they test positive, then they are going to, consider that a positive test, and they'll become a prohibited driver.
Sit on the federal motor carrier, I read the other day, 0 THC.
So what the drug and alcohol clearinghouse will report is, positive, tests. So if you're positive for any substance that the drug and alcohol clearinghouse tests for on a DOT pre-employment test, if you refuse to take the test, it's going to throw you in a prohibited status. And the only way to get out of prohibited status is you have to join a substance abuse program, either through your company, or if you're an individual or an owner operator, you've got to go on the clearinghouse website, register, and it's got a list of substance abuse program providers. Go through all the stuff of the substance abuse program people, and then go back and take what's called a return to duty test and get a negative test result on that. So, the easiest way to remember, so pre-employment, that's where you walk in a consent or whatever, hey, you hand you the cup, you go in the bathroom, don't flush, give them a sample, and send it off and test it. If you become prohibited, something positive or refusal, the return to duty test is different, or it has to be observed. If it's not observed by whoever that testing center is, it does not count. You guys, can, self-explain what the word observe means. It means you ain't gonna be in the bathroom by yourself. Keep that in mind, okay? All right, insurance real quick. Everybody in here has insurance. So Arkansas minimum laws, our minimum insurance requirements are listed here. This is out of the, Act 300 of the state law book that we use, section 2722-104. So intrastate carriers, in-state only carriers are required a minimum to maintain minimum insurance coverage by state law. So if you go out of state, so if you're for hire interstate, so you go out of state and your vehicle has a GVWR over 10,000, so 10,000 or more, and you call all property only, no hazmat, then the minimum amount coverage bumps up to 750,000. And then when you start adding hazmat, everything, as you guys can see, it gets expensive.
Yep. Well, I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, insurance is the way you know it. Don't shortchange your insurance. Because. So 750,000 the minimum policy. I ain't never seen one yet in my career where they settled for 750. Matter of fact, the most expensive one I've heard about in the state of Arkansas, either the settle price or the asking price up front was 27.5. So that's a whole lot of ones and zeros. So insurance is worth it. All right, so everybody asks about alcohol. So obviously, if you're driving while intoxicated, if you require a CDL and you're operating a commercial motor vehicle, 104. If you're driving your pickup truck, you get 408. Any questions? So here's the big one that a lot of people don't know about. Possession of alcohol and CMV. So you take your truck and you got the trailer loaded up to it and all the equipment, and you're headed to the job site. Well, let's stop at the gas station or the liquor store and pick up a 6-pack. When we get done tonight, we're gonna have a barbecue and cook out and drink some fish. Well, overall, the DOT stops you between point A and point B. What's the word right there say? Does it say anything about drinking? It says possession, right? So if it's in the cooler, or if it's sitting over the floorboard and we can clearly see it, it's possession of alcohol and CMV. And we shut you down for 24 hours. This statute and law is unique because this state statute is a state law, so that means that any certified law enforcement officer can enforce that law. So that's your city cops, your county deputies, your state troopers, and others. So just explain to your people, and you guys keep in mind yourselves, if you're gonna drink, that's fine, you're all adults in this room, but just understand that if you get caught with alcohol, whether open or unopened, you're gonna see and be at the time you were stopped, fall under the regulations. This law and this charge will come in. Yes, ma'am?
On that bottom, someone.
Oh, no, we're gonna actually let you pour out your alcohol, cry with you while you do it. Yeah, so any kind of service violation is gonna cost the maximum amount of points for that violation. So as employees, employers, if they're on employers in here as well. So if you start getting a lot of out of service violations or even violations in general, a bunch of minor violations can add up quick. But if you start getting above the thresholds allowed by your driving basic categories or your basic categories, that's when I come into play, and I come into your company and have to investigate your company on why your score is so high and why you're doing so bad. But don't worry, you guys won't get surprised visiting me. If you start getting out of line or score starts climbing, the feds will send you a nice warning letter first. Say, hey, we've noticed this. Please don't do this anymore. This is how you can fix it. And if you ignore the letter or just continue to go bad and downhill, then it's pushed over for a compliance investigation. All right, size and load regulations real quick. When we get on time.
Got about 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes, we did it. So this in a nutshell, and I can provide you guys with copies of all this too. I can email it to Megan and she can email it out, statewide. So this tells you what we're gonna allow on your axle weights. So strip truck or 5-axle combination, whatever you guys may run. So you got a tandem, that's a tandem axle right there, so we're gonna give you 34,000. Single axle, 20,000. Your steer axle, we're gonna give you 12,000 up to 20, depending on what the bend plate says for the axle frame. For you guys that haul oversized loads occasionally, this is our oversized load permit requirements and regulations. So width in Arkansas is 8'6". The height has now been bumped up to 14 feet, so 14 feet is legal height now. Everything else is staying the same. Your axle weights for. So with an oversized load permit, you get to go a little bit beyond. So weights.
Quick question on that.
Yes, sir.
Where, how does the bridge law break down on numbers of axles?
So we measure your axles, depending on how many axles you have and what type of vehicle you're driving and hauling. We measure your axles, and then we have a chart inside our Act 300 law book that gives us those measurements. We compare the measurements with that chart, and that tells us how much weight you can haul.
Well, we pull 3-axle RG with a, 2 axles and tag axle. We did have a trailer that just had what I'll call a booster that was right on the back of that trailer, made 4-axle with a spacing of, I'm gonna say 4.5 feet. That dropped us from the 20,000 down to 17,000 per axle. When we add what I'll call a stinger on, which put a measurement center axle to center axle up to 14 foot, that let us go back to the 20,000 per axle.
Yep.
How far does it have to be before we can go back to that 20,000?
Okay, so is everybody ready? So that's a tandem, right? So a tandem is more than 40 inches, but not more than 96 inches. So from center to center has to be more than 40, but not more than 96 to be classified as a tandem. So if you exceed 96 inches, which you do when you add a 14-foot stinger back here, so that stinger goes back up to 20,000. Those right there are only gonna get 17 apiece for 34 total. Everybody good? So if you guys, this is also on our website. If you guys ever need an oversized road permit, this is all the information you're gonna have to give the permit. There's the world famous backhoe. I wouldn't do that. That was just playing along. The big thing, if you guys haul dump trucks or whatever, spilling your load, that is a state law. We get tons and tons of complaint calls into our office about gravel trucks, not chips and trucks and all that stuff. So just keep in mind, if you put it in the bin, it's gotta stay in the bin until you get to the job site. We'll fix it to get to that. So that's obviously spilling your load. See how that one's clean? That's what they did. They got stopped and they said, hang on, I can fix it. They swept it all up on the ground. So talk law. So September 30th, 2001 or newer. That's the magic date. Sand, rock, gravel, or crushed stone or quarry tar. No ifs, ands, or buts. If it's older than September of 2001, you guys have 2 options. You can tarp it if you'd like. But at a minimum, if you choose not to tarp it, you have to make 6 inches, maintain 6 inches of freeboard between the top of the freeboard and the load. Like good? Yep. Probably at the sides. My big old tail probably can't climb up in the middle. But along the edges, along all 4 edges. Show you some guys, some equipment stuff. This is some maintenance photos. Obviously, that's not gonna It's the emergency brake light, there's no good, it's not hooked up. That's really, really blurry, that's a rusty brake drum. What's that sign? That's what you call statute that we- that's the internal spring on the spring brake chamber. It has never affected one of those apart, see what it does? It'll shoot out like a rocket. So these are the websites, if you guys want to write them down, I'll leave them up here for a minute. Oh, Arkansas DB, this is where you can go. Anything as far as registrations go, CDLs, cars, anything of that nature. If you see the same. Yeah, DOT numbers, or you become a state. Go there, take your player, whatever. Call your. If you're subject to so there's the court on the week, you just want to agree, go to that website and explain everything about the drug and alcohol clearinghouse, who needs to register, how you register, it's a step-by-step, click and go interactive process. Everybody get their pictures and their notes.
I've got an online question real quick. Under the 2,600 pound or 26,001 pound, do you still have to stop at scales? Under the 26,001 pounds, do you still have to stop at scales? I believe so, yes.
Probably no, but it wouldn't hurt to pull through, because here's the deal, all of our scales are located at state borders. What are we saying about what way and what rules apply versus intra versus inter? So if you're around a scale house, what chances are, where you fix it? You're coming back into Arkansas from somewhere, or you're headed out, right? So it's all dependent and determined on the type of trip that you're taking. So, any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, can you have guns inside, like, the
Yep, as long as you're not a convicted felon.
but a CDL and a medical card, you can have.
All day, every day.
Hey, question, I'll push that down with, I think, you got your, carry, I want to say, somebody say, steel screw example, and you get that, probably like that, and it's legal carry.
So all I can speak for is Arkansas. Arkansas is now a constitutional carry state. Territories, I don't know, so carry on, I'm trying to get anybody off of it, but that's still confusing and misconstrued, so Arkansas is now constitutional carry, so you can carry concealed or open. As far as commercial motor vehicles go, they're the same as your passenger car. As far as whether or not you can carry one. As long as you're legally allowed to possess a handgun, you can carry. The courteous thing would be to do is, if you're obviously stopped and you have a firearm, tell us you're armed. Please don't show it to us. You got us planned. It's kind of like. Courteous, if you are armed, let us know. What's the news in TV, sirens, a little crazy and everybody right now, police and citizens. So just cooperate, be respectful of us, we will obviously return the favor, be respectful. All be good. Yes,
Is there a worksheet or workflow, like, how do I know, how to get it tagged, or, like, I'm hauling a 325 cat, 16,000 pound machine, it's not fun. Now, I never filled out an overweight tag or oversized tag, or, I don't even know.
Don't play permit?
Yeah.
You can either go online or call into our permit office, you got something writing. 569 2381. Also on our website, ardot.gov, across the top where it says divisions. Click divisions, so it'll pop a drop-down menu with Arkansas Highway Police. It'll shoot out another drop-down menu. We have an oversized overweight permit tab. Click it. It lists our permit rules and regulations in a big huge PDF format. Plus it explains all those FAQs and cheat sheets I just showed you guys on the board. So just if you exceed 8'6" wide, 14 feet tall, and exceed 80,000 pounds, you need some form of permit. The overweight permits are gonna cost you money. It's per ton, per mile. The overweight and the overnights should be a flat, I think they're still $17, 17 or 22 bucks. So you guys, the idea of skipping out and hoping not get caught on a $17 or $22 permit versus a $180 ticket, do the math.
Got another question, have to do with the annual inspections. These lighter trucks, you know, the form for that, it don't even flow with the truck if you're doing it. And, Class 8 truck, yeah, these one time, these people, these fast, it don't even flow with it. Most of them don't have that.
You just put NA, if it doesn't apply, just walk through.
Yeah. But, I don't know, you can ask a lot about that. What happened?
If they're a commercial motor vehicle, they're off.
I've got a text in question. So do companies have to have both their DOT number and company name / address on the driver door? Do the escort vehicles have to DOT? Okay, I'm gonna reread that. Do companies have to have, their both DOT number and company name / address on the driver door? And then do the escort vehicles have to DOT? I'm not really sure what that second part.
First half of that question is yes, if they are required in US DOT.
Yes, if they are required. And
DOT. And they can run it on the door. I've seen it on the sleeper. I've seen it on the fuel tank. The regulations stay on the doors. We give you credit as long as it's on each side. It has to be in a contrasting color from the truck color. So you can't have a white truck with white letters. And it has to be visible from 50 feet away. But then the second half, escorts, we don't really, the only regulations we have on escorts in Arkansas is insurance requirements, lighting requirements, communication requirements. We don't, the state does not regulate what inspections or what process they have to go through unless they actually are a legitimate escort service, and then those rules and regulations are in our permit.
Is the lighting requirement, the regulation used to be, I think, a 3-inch tall rotating light. Since it went to all the LEDs, what is the requirement now?
We're working on that as we speak.
So,
Captain Bass in our permit section, he's aware of that, and a lot of people are going to LED lightings now, so I think, so anytime we amend or change something in our permit rules and regulations, it has to be approved by the legislature. Because it's a legal binding document. I think our agency's in the process of trying to update it and work out some new regulations or change some different regulations, because I think it's still in there. It's the incandescent halogen old school rotating lights or the strobe lights.
Yeah, I don't know that you can even still get the ones that, what used to be in the regulation.
Probably can't.
Hey, I'm in this meeting.
Any more questions?
Okay.
What about all these stuff?
No. Before I did talk. located on.
And less than 100 miles, something like that. There used to be like a ring.
So it's 100 or something like that. It's 150 air mile circle. So 150 air miles, as long as you stay within that 150 air mile circle, you can just run the time clock. You go outside the 150 air mile circle, that's when the laws come into play. Depending on what kind of operation you're doing, will determine whether or not you can still run an old school paper log, or whether you gotta have a fancy EL.
Are you required to have that time sheet with you?
No, again, our system.
Integrity.
One here kind of on that line, in the construction industries, are we still allowed the 1 16-hour day in the 70-hour work week, or is that changed?
No, that's still.
So it's still the 14,
Phone calls about that in the last couple of weeks.
14 hours a day with the exception of allowed 1 16.
Can't go that 11-hour drive time.
Yes.
Question, if you're registered as an intrastate driver, your DOT, what happens if you get caught crossing the state line? How can you work that? It's just occasional. Well, I mean,
So that's operating beyond the scope of your authority, or operating without authority, or federal registry with a DOT number. Whether or not it. And that shutdown period is until you call the feds and register and get that operating. Approved roadside or scale house or whatever, that you've actually got that for.
what's the process of changing this?
Go online, go on the FMCSA, fmcsa.dot.gov.
Right.
And update, it's called an MCS 150 form. You update that, change it from inter or intra to inter.
What was that form again?
MCS 150, you can Google that form. So update or change your MCS 150.
Well, I got one more question. We had an auditor that kind of taught us this, that you're guaranteed an audit from you. In his personal opinion, when you do this thing, you're guaranteed. Every experience he's ever had changing them, you'll come in and.
Yes, so if you change and go to inter,
Right.
so if you're inter, you go outside the state of Arkansas, you are required to have a new entrance safety audit within the first 12 months of you being in business. It's a painless. We will email you a checklist, and our checklist details on what paperwork and what documents. Seriously, if you have those documents. Someone at your company should have, if you have a US DOT number, chances are you're probably registered as an interstate carrier. If you're not, or you're unsure, you can call us in our office and we can run your DOT number and tell you. Any more questions? Good. Probably went a little over, right? Thank you guys for
Thank
your
you so
time.
much.